Hey, I'm Chris. I live in Las Vegas and I love Keytars. And today is Sunday, and you know what that means? It is Studio Sunday. Every Sunday, I try to pick a different piece of equipment in my studio and do a little demo of it, a little bit of history on it, and just tell you how much I love that piece of equipment. Now, I fell in love with guitars and I fell in love with synthesizers like a lot of people in the community. And it turns out you see one piece of gear and you fall in love with it, and you see another piece of gear and you fall in love with it. And then it kind of cascades and builds into this big problem that everybody in the synth community calls GAS, Gear Acquisition Syndrome. Now, I'm very happy to say that as a New Year's resolution, I think a year ago back, I decided to totally clip my addiction to gear and just re-fall in love with all the gear they already had. And to remind myself why I bought this gear in order to write new songs, in order to play with vintage gear, and be that kind of musician that I saw growing up playing with 80s and 90s gear. And how would I be that kind of guy if I could time travel back and play and write music with the same stuff that they used? Now, I am very happy and very enthusiastic to go into the equipment that I am totally featuring today. And it's also brought to you by, if you could see up in the corner, the CME Widi Master, and also it's called the X Vive, I think Bluetooth wireless MIDI. Now, I'm going to show you what that has to do with what I'm going to show you today. So today, I am doing yet another video on the RK100. This is the Korg RK100. I believe it came out in 1984. It is one of those original MIDI controllers in the 1980s. Basically, what is a MIDI controller? It is a keyboard that you could strap onto yourself. You hook it up to your piano or your synthesizer, and then you run around on stage playing it so you're not stuck basically on a rack of keyboard stands. I guess all the keyboard players were tired of that. They were tired of all the guitar players getting all the glory. So somebody created a MIDI controller so the keyboardist can get a little bit more in on the act. Now, how does the thingy work? So basically, you take your MIDI cord and you hook it up to your MIDI controller, up to your synthesizer. In this case, I am hooking it up to my electric piano. You take that thing and then you basically run around on stage and play your keyboard or your piano wherever you want to play it, unfettered by a keyboard stand. All right? Now, nowadays, it's a lot simpler if you have wireless MIDI. I've been trying to use rechargeable batteries in all of my synthesizers and keyboards, and I've been trying to use wireless MIDI and wireless guitar systems in order to not have that spaghetti wire mess that a lot of keyboard players have hidden behind all their keyboards. At the bottom of the stands, they have this crazy just mess of wires that look like spaghetti, right? And I am ashamed that I had that too. So I use something very, very novel. It is called the MIDI, the CME Widi Master. Now, what is it? The CME Widi Master. Woo! Oh, I love that. I love live video. It looks like this, and it looks like that. So what you do is you hook this on to your MIDI out, and it works off of Bluetooth technology. It will basically process all of your MIDI information to the thing that you're trying to control. I've got these plugged into two different Keytars controlling two different things. So I'm going to show you how those work. Again, this is a MIDI out. This is the X Vive, but I think it's funny. The X Vive wireless MIDI is compatible with the CME MIDI Widi Master. What's really funny about that, I swear they're probably made in the same village, they're probably made in the same factory in China or in Taiwan, and basically they're being produced by two different companies using the same firmware. So again, these little guys process MIDI information via wireless Bluetooth. And basically you get two of these, you hook one onto the system that you want to play, and you put the other one, your master control, onto your keyboard or your MIDI controller in order to control that keyboard without a wire in between them. So, come on. Again, you gotta love live video. So, one of my biggest loves about the Korg RK100S is, honestly, it is a big, heavy Keytar. It's about 30 pounds, and it looks like a lightning bolt. That's a giant black lightning bolt. It's a heavy guy. It has all these little buttons on top in order to control what MIDI channel you want it to play on and in order to control what tone on the specific keyboard you're playing on. Usually when you had general MIDI in the 1980s, there was like 100 different tones that you could go up and down. This one has 8 different sections with 8 different tones on it. So I believe, what is that? 8 times 8 is like 64. You could play 64 different tunes on this. But basically, you have a volume, you have a bend control, you have this thing that has the destination on where you want to control all of these little controllers, as well as you have this little switch that has your octave, high, low, and medium octave. And basically, this is a little button that controls your programs up and down, all the different tones on the keyboard that you're trying to control. Now, I played a simple little chord progression on my electric piano, and I tuned this to the orchestra hit because you know I love orchestra hit. So I am going to play basically this guy, wireless mind you, along with like the 4 chord melody that I had recorded on this piano. So let's begin. Silly, a little cheesy, but that's what I really love about old school equipment. Also, I think I did a video on orchestra hit and the weirdness of orchestra hit and how it came to be a synthesizer patch in the 1980s. This guy was playing with one of those old school samplers. He's had a Stravinsky album playing in the background. Stravinsky basically invented the orchestra hit. He decided to sample it, and then it became one of those staples on general MIDI in the 1980s. So, orchestra hit. Oh, by the way, another thing about the RK100, if the little lights are flashing, that means the batteries are dying, which is awesome. Again, I try to use like rechargeable batteries in all of my MIDI controllers and synthesizers now in order to be green in my studio. So again, the MIDI controller, it's shaped like a lightning bolt. You can control all the different tones and patches that are in General MIDI in the 1980s. You could run around on stage with this guy. You can go head to head with any of the guitar players that are on stage. I think that was the whole point of having a synthesizer back then. And then, of course, using a little modern day technology like the Widi Master, I could run around with just that guy and no chords needed. Now, there's a great similarity between this and the X Vive wireless MIDI, and I will show you the similarity. So, completely different keyboard, but same technology. Come on. Let's not break anything. All right. So, this is still the RK100, but I kind of punked it out and embellished it out. I painted it green. I put spikes on it, and I put punk rock stickers all over it, and of course a whole bunch of 80s fringe. Again, this is the RK100, but just a little bit styled for me. It does the same thing. Again, it's just the same style with just a little bit of pizzazz on there. You could control, of course, all of your tones and patches right there. Same deal. You could control your octave. You can control a pitch bend in the controls in the neck. And this one I have hooked up to right there. This is the Behringer Model D. So with the same technology, but it's the X Vive. As you can see, it's the X Vive version of the wireless MIDI controller. I am going to control the sounds of this synthesizer. Now, I absolutely love the resonance of the Behringer Model D. It is supposed to basically copy the sounds of a 1970s synthesizer. And again, same Keytar, just a little bit more pizzazz, and a little bit of wireless Bluetooth technology to help me play it without any like tripping over wires, which is what I do best on stage. So, what I really love about my studio is I try to take the best of old school technology and try to mesh it into the best of new school technology in order to make 80s and 90s inspired music with a little bit of help of nowadays technology. And of course, I love to use old school equipment just so I could feel like all of those cool musicians who were using it in the first place way back in the day. Again, this is the RK100, and this is from 1984. It is a MIDI controller. MIDI controllers are different than a shoulder synthesizer. More or less, a shoulder synthesizer is like those guys. See, that is the Roland AX Synth. Basically, it's a synthesizer that you could wear on your shoulder. It's got sounds in it. It's got a full synthesizer in it. I believe that one, let's see, that is the Roland Axe Edge. It's got an arpeggiator in it. You can control the sounds. You can manipulate the sounds in real time. Again, there are no sounds in this guy. This is just a MIDI controller. It can only play the sounds of the keyboard that it's hooked up to. Again, they did have the technology to put a full synthesizer in a Keytar back in the 1980s, but that was few and far between. I think you only had like the Roland SH S101 that was making its own sounds, which is funny because that's the clone of it right there. That's the Behringer clone. Why don't I do a lot of videos on Behringer clones? Back in the day, I thought that I would have bought a whole bunch of different Behringer clones because it was like having the old equipment from way back in the day with modern day technology in it. But Behringer has turned out to be one of those problematic companies, and I decided that I can't really support a problematic company, especially if it has all that kind of baggage. So, thank you again for joining me on Studio Sundays. I will still pick up another general piece of equipment and play it and show you how it works and explain the origin of it every Sunday, just to fall in love with each and every one of the different pieces that I have in my own collection. Hugs, health, and happiness from Las Vegas. This is Chris, and this is the Korg RK100.